So what we've got here is some electrolytes, a little bit of carbohydrates, a little bit of amino acids all mixed together. Just help with hydration when you're training. All right, my shoulders are really stiff and tight today, so I'm going to take a little bit extra time warming up. There are a billion different things that you could do to warm up. I'm just going to be doing a little bit of Kali stick swinging. There is nothing magical about these sticks. This is just something that I picked up when I was in the Philippines a few years ago because I wanted to learn it. I saw it on TV one day. It was Arrow, the TV show. And I thought, that is fucking cool. So I wanted to learn more about it. Went to the Philippines, learned from grandmasters over there, and now I just do a little bit of it as a warm-up. A lot of people get really pedantic and maybe overthink their warm-ups a lot of the times. They, oh, I need to do this very specific rotation drill or activation and things like that. And there are definitely some cases where that kind of approach is very, very, very important depending on the situation. But for me today, just the same way that I'd go for maybe a light walk or a light jog to get my heart rate up, this is the same kind of thing that we're doing just for the shoulders. We're literally just doing 5 minutes of that, and my heart rate is now at about 110, 115, which is a great space to be in when you're looking at getting into your lifting now. So we're going to start on the Smith machine. I put a little piece of tape down on the ground to know how far back to put the bench, but I put it off center. So when I line the bench up with the tape, the whole thing's off. So I got to do this to make sure that I got it right. All right, Smith machine, incline press. I like taking a pretty much shoulder width grip. So a lot of people would normally go out to say maybe here-ish, where you got shoulder width and then you go maybe a hand width or 2 hand widths out. I personally find that I get much better range of motion and sensation through my chest and power if I go literally like that's almost right over my shoulder. So what you'll notice is I'm doing this quarter rep at the bottom, or this half rep, that's the pulse. That's now been termed the lengthened partial. Although traditionally I would call it a 1 1/4 rep or 1 1/2 rep, which is a term I got from Charles Poliquin before all this research on lengthened training being beneficial came out as a thing. He would do it just in whatever position was the hardest on an exercise. So you might do it in the stretch here on a press, you might do it on say a cable row or barbell row, you might do the pulse here because that's the hardest position as opposed to being out here. And it was all just about emphasizing getting more volume in that hardest range of motion as opposed to doing the full range. So I only did 3 reps there, but it's technically 6 reps for that hard portion. The other benefit to this specifically here is in this first half of the press, that is when your chest has the best leverage to move your arm from A to B. When you start going from around, this pointish here to here, roughly speaking, that's where the triceps take over a lot more and the chest doesn't have as good a leverage anymore to pull the arm across. So if we're getting super, super nerdy here, by spending more time here, we're spending more time in a chest-specific range of motion. Whereas if I just did this partial here, that would be a lot more of a tricep range of motion. More importantly than anything else is all of this research stuff. It doesn't definitively say you should do lengthened work or non-lengthened work, full range work. All this stuff is really just food for thought. It puts a spotlight onto some interesting ideas that you might want to play with. But even if the research said definitively that doing lengthened work only is the best way to build muscle, you might find when you do it on certain exercises, it just feels like trash or it hurts. So no matter what the research says, you're probably going to get broken by doing that. So we need to have our own lens to be able to say, okay, yes, this is what the research says, this is what a lot of evidence says, here's how to apply it to myself and whether or not I'm going to be able to follow this or not. Ooh. Oh. Shit. I feel so badass putting this on, like I'm going to go on a big adventure or something. But really we know deep down I'm not an adventurer at all. and I would not survive in the wild. I've been doing this workout now for about 4 weeks with these push-ups, but they've just been bodyweight because I just got this yesterday. And there's only 10 kilos in here. I mean, you're not here, there's 50 kilos in here. 10 kilos in here, and that was so much harder. Oh, so much harder. Oh. Oh. So ring push-ups. What you can see here is I'm doing them with a super slow eccentric, a lot of control in that stretch. I'm spending like a good, honest 3, maybe 4 seconds in that position to really open things up into a range that I'm not getting on the Smith machine. Even if I was doing dumbbells, it'd be hard for me to get to this kind of range here with dumbbells. You could get there maybe on cables. You could get there in the cable press on some machines as well. But I like this specifically because of how unstable it is and how unpredictable it is. It's forcing me to learn to stabilize my body in space that much more. Imagine if you're walking and you slip, right? And maybe you tear your hamstring or you strain your adductor. What happened there was some unpredictability and the muscle had to contract in a position that it's not normally used to at a very high speed, very sharp velocity. Same kind of thing's happening here. I'm in a controlled environment, exposing my body to unpredictability and requiring it to contract and stabilize itself to meet those demands. At the very least, I'm getting a really good pec stretch, really good chest pump from it, but potentially I'm getting a lot more of a strengthening effect to my entire body that could help to preserve me from getting a lot of injuries in the future. Is that how it feels to take your breath after a long day?
Yeah.
That's it for chest. I just did a few sets on the Smith press, a few sets on push-ups. I could do more, but chest is already a pretty strong point for me. So I'd rather dedicate that time towards some of my weaker points, like my shoulders and my triceps. Okay, shoulders. If you're not using cuffs when you're doing your shoulder raises, you are seriously missing out. It takes your grip and your wrist and your forearms and stuff out of the equation a lot more. I find a lot of people, they really squeeze onto the handles a lot, and as a result, this stuff starts getting really fatigued and really just tight and can be quite uncomfortable. Whereas here, I'm not relaxing my hands, but I'm not just completely squeezing the shit out of it completely to a point where there's a lot of force going through it, which makes it quite uncomfortable.
So why are you pulling it from behind? I feel like a lot of people pull it from the front.
Yeah, front's fine as well. But when you pull from in front of you here, imagine if I was like this, I was pulling me this way, I'm not getting as deep a stretch in my shoulder as opposed to it pulling behind me here. That's a much deeper stretch. I mean, I'm exaggerating the positions a little bit more to show you, but so much deeper. But if you're in the front, what you can get if you stepped behind the cable is you can pull back into a really strong, contracted, squeezy position, kind of like a concentration curl versus like more of an incline curl. If you're looking at this purely from that whole lengthened position bias for growth, I would say going behind the back, getting that deep stretch is a lot better. And you could even supercharge it by bringing this cable up a little bit higher to really pull yourself horizontally this way behind your body into that deep stretch. Oh. Here's another cool thing you can do with the shoulders on the cable. So this is helpful if you're stuck between weights, but it's also helpful if you just want to get a really nasty pump and really push your shoulders. By starting down here, the weight's right by my waist height, which is really loading up this position here when I'm stretched out. It's quite challenging. Come forwards a little bit, raise up. So we're really overloading that stretch position here. When I fail, we'll get close to failure, which is like there. Come up. Same position as before. I've got a few more reps I can give. Because the stretch position is a little bit easier, I can generate a bit more speed and momentum, which helps to carry me through for a few more reps. Kind of like a drop set, but this is a mechanical advantage drop set. Instead of changing the weight up, you change body position to again manipulate where it's hard versus easy, similar to how you might bring a dumbbell from out here to a dumbbell here as you fatigue on dumbbell raises. Oh, that burns.
When you do your first push downs, you move your elbows forward at the beginning of the rep.
Yeah, like a little
Is
dip.
that to generate like a little bit of power, or?
It could become like a cheating mechanism where you're kind of like ripping the weight down, but you see I'm doing it under quite a bit of control. Like I'm intentionally like slowing it, smoothly coming down. I find it gives me a better stretch. And this long head of your tricep goes right into your armpit, into your shoulder blade. It performs this motion. So helping it stretch up, come down, and then push down helps to maybe integrate that area into the movement a little bit more. I just find it very comfortable. It's something I naturally do. And for me to lock things down, to keep myself fixed the entire time, I ask myself, what's the net benefit to me doing that, keeping things locked in? I'm probably gonna get the exact same amount of stimulus in my triceps doing it like this versus doing this controlled pull down. So same kind of benefit, but what's the cost? Me having to mentally devote attention towards saying, don't let your elbows drift forward whatsoever. That's a cue that's going against my natural instincts, which could make it a lot harder for me to get through sufficient reps. Of course, if it was getting to a point where I was using really sloppy technique and I was just like heaving my body weight over it and like throwing it down with my lats or my entire body weight, then it's probably not beneficial anymore. So it comes down to the scale of how much of it are you doing and how much of it is really affecting the execution of the lift. All right, and that's push done for today. Hope you guys learned something useful from this workout. Any other questions, anything else you want to see, drop it down below. I'll see you in the next one.